American Express, a very big moat, in my opinion, a very big holding of Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway. We're going to go over the company today. We're going to go over some news stories. We're going to go in our community and go through some bull and bear cases from our community members. We're going to cover analyst estimates, of course, our famous 8-pillar process, and we're going to finish it off with probably what you're wondering the most of, which is what is the right price to pay for American Express. Guys, no matter where you stand on the spectrum of investing, whether you're a beginner all the way to advanced, there'll be something in this video for you. So watch the entire thing. No matter what level you're at, you're going to absorb something, you're going to learn something. So let's take a look at American Express in our community software. So American Express 158.33. Oh, by the way, I own American Express. That does not mean you should own it. You should do your own research. We are here to teach a process, not to hand feed you investments to make. My requirements for investment are going to be very different than your requirements, so just remember that. So I do own American Express stock right now. So year to date, you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, I got a few shares when it fell. When did it fall recently below 150? Yeah, look at October, it was 130. I was buying some shares back then. Nice. So look at this, the 52-week high. 130. All-time high was February of last year, so about a year and a half ago, is at 196. So from February until October, it fell 1/3, sorry. It was at 2/3 the price. It's up year to date, only 8%, which is trailing the market. Some high-level metrics on the company. Market cap of $117 billion. If you want to buy every single share outstanding, you have to spend $117 billion. Net income. So here's something interesting on American Express. Their net income last year was $7.4 billion. The last 5 years, it averaged 6.6. So if you've watched this channel, you know that I love looking at free cash flow. And rarely is it the case that free cash flow is higher than net income. But look at how much higher it is.
Basically double.
Free cash flow, $14.8 billion last year. In the last 10 years, $10.9 billion. Substantially higher than their net income. Substantially. Now, is this a banking thing? I don't know. But it does make me feel good that their free cash flow is higher than their net income. All right. PE currently is 15.75. Seems pretty reasonable for a company that is, I consider a pretty good moat. I mean, Mo, it does own the world of high-end credit cards.
Yeah.
All right. So some other things, guys. Lower profit margin last year, even with record profit, 13.1%. The last 5 years, they've averaged 14.7%. Is 100% gross margin even possible? It's got to be the way they report their books.
Yeah.
Small dividend, 1.4%, pays out $1.7 billion. Now, guys, as you know, and I keep getting into arguments on Twitter with these dividend. Some guy yesterday wrote on Twitter, he wrote, 2 reasons for me to sell a stock. 1, dividend cut. 2, fraud. And I was like, wait, what?
That's
literally, he wrote that.
That's an amazing thesis.
I was like, you have, and then I wrote, so you have dividend cut above fraud? He goes, it was in no particular order. I was like, it doesn't matter. The fact that you even enter dividend, listen, people love dividends, but you have to understand why people give a dividend and why companies should be paying a dividend. In my personal opinion, it should be the last thing they do and only pay a dividend if the stock is so overpriced that you can't buy back shares. It is tax inefficient. If you disagree with me on that one, then you think that 1 + 1 = potato. It is just absolutely tax inefficient. And the reason being, when a company gets their net income number and their free cash flow number, this is after they've paid taxes as a corporation, then they give you a dividend and you pay taxes again on that number, on that dividend. If they buy back shares, it's only that stupid communist thing that they're doing with the share buyback tax. So the bottom line is, guys, they can easily afford this tax, this dividend. $1.7 billion on their average free cash flow of $10.9 billion. They're paying like 16% of their 5-year average free cash flow. We want it to be under 50%. They're at 16%. So something tells me this is going to be a very solid dividend. Mo, do me a favor. Mm-hmm. Look up the income statement during the Great Financial Crisis and how American Express's revenue and profit did during that recession.
So 2007, they did $26.25 billion. 2008, $28.8 billion. 2009, $25.7 billion. So
it dipped by 10%.
A bit, but it can't. Well, I mean, look how quickly. By 2011, they were right back at.
What about the profit? Did they even lose money? No, of course not. $4 billion, 3.5, 1.8. And guys, I want everybody to remember, like, the story being told in American Express probably back then was probably, oh, people are done spending all this money. All the exuberance of rich people is done. It's like, no, it doesn't happen that way. Your job as an investor is to stay calm and realize the world will go back to normal at some point. Just like when COVID hit, people said the world was going to shut down forever. And we saw the bottom of the market when the US, had 5,000 cases of COVID. And then they ended up having 200 million cases of COVID, and the stock market just skyrocketed from there. So just remember that going forward, and that's what we're trying to teach here, is this process and this way of thinking about investing. All right, so let's go to our community. Actually, let's do the 8 pillars first real quick. So it's a 6 check mark. The return on invested capital, 4.2%. I don't believe this. It's got to be some sort of calculation being done about the way they report their balance sheets. I'm not going to put much value into this. I just have a hard time believing this is the actual correct number. Now, they've bought back a lot of shares, 14% in the last 5 years. And their debt shows high, but that's also because of how they are as a lending company, essentially. I'm not worried about that either. Look at this 5-year price of free cash flow, 10.8, Mo.
That's pretty good. They've bought back a lot of shares.
And since when?
Since 2014, they were at 1.05 billion. Today,
so 25%.
25% of their shares they bought back.
All right. Now, remember, guys, if you're part of our community, you can customize your pillars, up to 12 different pillars. And I love when I go, see people's screenshots and it shows their customized pillars. Mo, when they send me their screenshots in the community, I just love it. All right. So let's go see our community chat. I'm going to open it up and go to American Express here. Mo, why don't you go through some of the comments here? Because we have quite a few comments.
The first bull case, it's American Express.
Yeah, I laughed at that too. That was from Alexander. Yeah, he's a funny guy, by the way. I engage with him a lot on the community.
That is funny. All right, they provide a premium product that attracts big spenders.
So Raf here, I want to comment on Raf. Raf's from the UK.
Yeah.
He talks about the merchant fees are substantially more. That is correct. And he says a lot of shops don't accept it. I think that's changing more with people using Stripe and Square and PayPal and the other services. They're just incorporating it.
When I run into a store that doesn't expect American Express, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. And I don't think that's an issue to worry about. I think that's just, okay, it's just something with them. All right, go ahead.
They own and operate their network, so they capture most of the revenue and the card payments compared to other issuers. Chase uses Visa and MasterCard as payment processors for their cards. Let's see. Hey,
Thorify, actually, when you say American Express revenue and profit should increase as inflation increases, I think it'll grow faster than that. They're trying to appeal to higher end people. And depending on what your viewpoint is, higher end people tend to increase their income faster. So I would actually argue that they're probably going to increase their revenue and profit at a faster rate than even the world economy grows. Just like Ferrari's fastest growing market's Africa right now. So I just think that's going to happen. Let's see. What else you got, Mo?
This is a pretty good one. As Mo mentioned before, users of American Express feel more protected by their purchases.
100%.
I have never lost a dispute when I've gone through American Express.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, a lot of comments here. I love it.
Yeah, there's a lot. 1/5 of America. This is from our analyst Dalton. 1/5 of Americans use a credit card to cover basic living expenses. These guys charge. This is going back to merchant fees. These guys charge the highest of any legacy credit card, an average of 2.5% to 3.5%. Visa and MasterCard are 1.5% to 2.5%.
Yeah, so Wicked Willie is Dalton, our soon-to-be analyst starting October 1st. Global payments market is expected to hit a CAGR of 17.6% through 2028. CAGR is compounded annual growth rate. 17.6% per year for the next 4 or 5 years. Wow. While 1.06 of the 2.8 billion total credit cards in the world in the United States. Huh, interesting. That's good. Charge the highest merchant fees. I'm fine. The perks. I don't really use their perks that much for travel. What about you? I just accumulate my points and I use it for travel.
So I have the Centurion card. I use the Saks thing every
quarter,
half year, or whatever it is. I use the airlines. I use the hotel. I use pretty much everything.
Good. All right. So Mo, who gets the community award for best comment and gets a T-shirt from us?
I don't know. There's a lot of engagement.
There's a lot of great. I think Thorify should get it.
Okay, Thorify, you get it.
Thorify, thank you very much for your great engagement throughout. But we're going to show you the T-shirts you can pick from. Stocks only go up, bro.
You want me to keep going through them? This one's, I think.
What was that? Every investment is the If you can't finish this yet, you haven't watched enough of our videos. Present value of all future cash flows.
There you go.
You've gotta, if you don't know that quote yet, you have not watched enough videos, so please watch one of our 2,500 videos. All right, now let's go back to check it out. Let's go check out analyst estimates. So they're expecting $11.22 per share this year, according to analysts, right? Growing to $14.50 by 2027. So that's roughly a growth of 25 or 30%. It's not big time growth, but it's there. And it's a very mature company. And I think that's beating nominal growth. So that's good. Revenue growth, $61 billion this year to $78 billion. That's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
I think that's actually higher than their profit growth.
I wonder if they're factoring in any
Share buybacks?
share buybacks
On the
anything like
EPS?
that. Yeah.
Well, Mo, if you look at this, what's interesting to me, this revenue growth is almost 30%, but I don't think this profit growth is, it's almost 30%, but definitely not 30%, I don't think. That's interesting. You would think that profit would grow faster, especially with such a high gross margin. Such a high gross margin.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. All right, so guys, this takes us to one spot. The question that we've all been asking is, what is the price to pay? And this is why we're going to our stock analyzer tool. Guys, and if you're interested in joining the community, getting all access to our community, plus the software, check out this video right here. It's very quick. You'll love it. So, when was the last time I did American Express? Let's pull it up in our software history. I did it on May 4th, 2023.
So did I, and I'm completely changing all my numbers.
So I did a 20-year analysis back
Let's see
then.
what you put in.
What'd you do? How many years did you do, Mo?
I did a 10-year.
Okay, good. Oh, yeah, I think I'm going to change my my revenue
everything.
growth numbers. I'm not going to do 3, 5, and 7. I think that's low now. I'm going to do 4, 7, and 10% revenue growth. At 7% revenue growth for 20 years, that's doubling twice over the next 20 years. So it'll take their revenue from 60 billion to 240 billion, but 20 years from now. 20 years from now. Mo, what did you do? What revenue growth did you do?
3, 6, and 9.
Okay. That's probably good. Actually, no, that's probably pretty good. That's probably better. No, I'm going to stick with 4, 7, and 10.
Okay.
No, I'm going to do 3, 6, and... See, this is what's interesting about using the software. All right. What about profit margin, Mo?
I did 12, 15, and 18.
So I did 13, 14, and 15, but I kind of like yours a little bit more. 12. I'm going to do 12, 14, and 16.
Okay.
Free cash flow margin?
22, 24... 20. I want to do this. 22, 26, and 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm doing 22, 24, and 26.
So while you keep going, I just want to look at their.
Okay, so guys, what we did here was we sat there and said, okay, what is their revenue growth going to be for our analysis? Now, Mo did 10-year, I did 20-year analysis. Then we're going to sit here and go, what's the profit margin? What's the free cash flow? Remember, free cash flow and profit margin, way higher free cash flow. So this is going to make it a little tough to determine the right price. Next thing, what is the PE this company should sell for at the end of our analysis? Now, I'm putting 15, 16 and a half, and 18 on both. I'm actually going to go higher here because I think it is a very large moat business. I like the idea of starting at 15, but I think it should go higher with higher revenue growth, some sort of moat status. Mo, what did you do for yours?
I did 16, 18, and 20.
So I'm actually going to do 16, 19, and 22.
It's fine.
For both of them. Now, finally, guys, what is your desired annual return? This is, you can get 9 or 10% from investing in a long-term ETF. So obviously, to buy an individual company, this is where you put your margin of safety. And the higher your assumptions, the more margin of safety you need, which means the higher you should want your desired return. The more return you want, the lower price you have to pay, right? You're going to make more return paying $100 for something than paying $200 for the exact same thing. So I put 11, 12 and a half, and 14. What'd you put in, Mo?
I did 10, 12, and 14%.
Okay. I'm at the analyze button. The stock's currently at 158. Now, guys, stay with me. I just need you for 1 or 2 minutes longer. And again, if you're interested in learning about the community, click the link above for that. But I want you to remember that we're here to teach a process. So it's important you understand what these numbers mean, especially with a company like this, where the profit margin and free cash flow are so different. I hit the analyze button. Wow. So this is confusing to me.
Yeah, this is confusing to me.
Low price of 136 based on earnings, 250 based on cash flow, high price of 300 to 483, middle price of 202 to 350. Oh man.
Yeah.
If you-
I have 136 to 250 on the low, 275 to 460 on the high, and 200 to 350 in the middle. And that's
what I'm at too.
Yeah, that makes me like, I look at this and go, all right, what am I missing here?
So guys, I think we need to engage in the community more about this company, because this seems like a buy all day.
To this business that we're missing.
Maybe so. Because what are the chances? Because the other thing is, why wouldn't Warren Buffett be loading up on this right now? All right, guys, thanks very much. Appreciate your time.